All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son, the Mashiach, who some call Yahushua, Yehoshua, Yeshua. But we mostly know as Jesus Christ. We're gonna go back to the Shulamite woman. Or we're not going back to the Shulamite. Well, I said we would deal with the Shulamite woman. We had to deal with the woman with the oil. We couldn't pass that story up. Well, to deal with the Shulamite woman, I don't even think we know the name of the Shulamite woman. We may know the name of the Shulamite woman. We have to reread it again, but we're gonna do some reading, y'all. We ain't reading but one and a half chapters. All right, 1.5 chapters. Just put this on when you gotta wash the dishes. Get a little word in. Build up an appetite for the word. It's like exercising. It don't just come. The flesh don't want that. The flesh, I'm telling you, the flesh, I'm the same way. Like I have to fight myself also. As soon as I get to read, man, I get to yarning and man, especially at night when I'm about to lay it down, like, oh, remember, read a couple chapters. Man, phone will slap me in the face 3-4 times. Like, but you have to condition yourself. You have to condition yourself. You have to build yourself an appetite for his words. And that comes with consistency, meditation, day and night with the Psalms 1:1. You got to meditate on the word. Anyway. And this is how you reform your mind. Anyway, we're going to go to 2 Kings. Matter of fact, I got you pulled up. Hold on, let me transition in here. Boom, boom. 2 Kings chapter 4 and verse 8. All right. 2 Kings chapter 4 and verse 8. It said, it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that as oft as he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread. All right, the Shunammite woman, anytime she seen Elisha, understanding that this was a man of God, she invited him over. She broke bread with him. And every time Elisha ended up getting used to it, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he coming through, he passing through. Let's stop by and, break bread with the sister. All right. She said unto her husband, behold, now I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passeth by us continually. All right. She said to her husband, let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set up for him there a bed and a table and a stool and a candlelight. And it shall be when he cometh to us that he shall turn in thither. Imagine asking your husband that, sisters. Imagine asking your husband that. That probably won't go well. But when you had certain things like this, you had certain reverence like Elisha had, that probably wasn't a hard sell. Him being a man of good report, him being a prophet of God. It probably wouldn't have been a hard sell. It's just hard for us because, boy, we so far from this thing that we ain't no way. Like I say, if we get back in another building, man, you gotta separate them sisters, man. We might have to put a wall between the sisters and the men, man. Just may have to do that, man. Joker's the flesh. Like, I understand the flesh a lot better now. And I'm not even finna let brothers get tempted like that, man. We didn't put a wall up, let them go through separate doors, all that, man. Maybe it's necessary for this generation. In a generation so hyperly sexualized, and y'all get what I'm saying. Verse 11, and it fell on the day that he came thither, and he turned into the chamber and lay there. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, say now unto her, behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldest thou be spoken for to the king, or to the captain of hosts? And she answered, I dwell among my own people. I dwell among my own people. And he said, what then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, verily she hath no child, and her husband is old. And he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaid. And this is what I was telling y'all about, that reproach. Sisters, if they couldn't give their husband a son, they were a reproach. And it's like that in a lot of countries to this day. It's just, you're not really honorable as a mother till you give that man a son. And yeah, you see that with a lot of those Arab cultures, a lot of those Middle East cultures. Where we at? But yeah, she seen that, and she was like, man, you know what? Don't even get me juiced. Don't even, like, that's such exciting news to her. Like, she like, man, I don't know if I could be able to take that not happening. I don't want to get all riled up and that doesn't happen. That might destroy me. Verse 17, and the woman conceived and bare a son at the season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of her life. And understand that these things are written like in the history of Israel, to be spoken about this woman forever, about what she did for Elisha, that man of God, and his servant Gehazi. Maybe we'll talk about him in another lesson. Verse 18, and when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. And he said unto his father, my head, my head. And he said to the lad, carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon and then died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door upon him and went out. And so she took him to the chamber that she built for the man of God, Elisha, that she set the candles up for, that she set up a place for him to lay his head and get some rest while he passing through. As the child died in her lap, she took that child up there to that chamber where that chamber she made for Elisha. I lost my place, y'all. Trying to talk to y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. 21. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door upon him and went out. And she called unto her husband and said, send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God and come again. And see, this is why, people would look, but they would only look a lot of times. This is why it says you'll look in your afflictions. A lot of times, they search for that man of God in their afflictions. This sister is not like that, to her credit. Even when, she was well off and had things situated and had things going, right for her, besides that one issue with not having a son, but she still was righteous and, was charitable to the man of God. Then saddled her an ass and said to her servant, drive and go forth. Slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, it is well. And that's a point there too, is that when she sends Gehazi, when not she, but when Elisha sends Gehazi, the servant, to her, he asked her, he sent the servant, say, hey man, ask her what's going on, what's wrong, what's the problem. But she didn't want to talk to Gehazi, so she didn't give him the problem, and that's what you can write down from that. Watch who you tell your problems to. Can't tell your problems to everybody. Can't tell your problems to the servant. Save it for the man of God. Every time I look down, I be losing my place, man. Okay, verse 26, we read that. 27. And when she came to the man of God, to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. I told you we got to do a lesson on that joke. Gehazi came near to thrust her away. Why is he thrusting her away? Like, wait a minute, man, you just told me everything was straight. That's the servant. But he's thrusting her away. She done fell to the feet of Elisha. The man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her. And the Lord hath hid it from me and have not told me. And then we see, Elijah trying to figure out, why didn't I know this? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm gleaning from that. Like, Elijah, he's like, man, I should know stuff like this. Like, evidently, he knows these type of things. And you can see that even if you read earlier with the Aram and them soldiers trying to come up, Elijah knew their every move pretty much. And, he was trying to figure out, like, how in the world are they, they moving, when in certain positions when we move, how do they getting this information? One of you jokers must be ratting and sending the information, but it was Elijah over there giving them all the information. He said, man, the Lord has hid these things, and it's for a purpose. For Elijah not to know these things. That's why she's in this book. It's for a purpose. Ultimately, it's for the glory of God. And have not told me. Verse 28. Then she said, did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me? And she's trying to understand and cope with this thing. She was, telling him, like, basically, man, this thing was going to break my heart. I told you, don't get me hyped up if you're not going to do it, if you're going to take this thing away from me. Verse 29, then he said to Gehazi, gird up thy loins and take my staff in thy hand and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not. And if any salute thee, answer him not again, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. And again, you remember the woman didn't want to speak to Gehazi, didn't want to tell the problems to Gehazi, but Elijah sends Gehazi, and his servant kind of like a trainee. It's kind of like his underling. He's supposed to be, he's supposed to be what Elisha was to Elijah. He was supposed to be a confidant. And, even with, this stuff going on with all of these people leaving certain organizations and leadership starting to fall and separate and dismember, brother had brought up a lesson I had did. That we talked about a confidant and when we talked about this the levels of friendship, but you only get one. You only get one Elisha. Like, you get one of them a lifetime. And Gehazi really didn't fit the mold. He wasn't a confidant. When sometimes when his desires got in front of the mission, his own desires got in front of the mission, and you'll see that with Naaman, and how Gehazi dealt with Naaman, and he ended up having to get rebuked by Elisha. I hope I'm not confused with them names, Elijah and Elisha. Then he said to Gehazi, gird up thy loins, take my staff to thy hand, go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not, and if you salute, and if any salute thee, answer him not again, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, as the Lord liveth, as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. Okay. Yeah, I know you sent Gehazi with the staff. I know you sent him out there. I know he works for you. I know he's probably underling, but I'm not going. She didn't have faith in Gehazi. All right. She said, I'm not leaving until you leave. I'm not leaving without you. And he arose and followed her. And Gehazi passed on before them and laid the staff upon the face of the child, but there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again to meet him and told him, saying, the child is not awake. All right, Gehazi went and tried to, did what was told of him by Elisha, and by putting the staff on the child. And he hurries and rush back. He don't do it again. I don't know if he do it again. The text don't say that though. The text don't say that he did it again. I want to speculate this fluff that he probably just did it, threw it on there one time, and he ain't done. Let me go back and tell this joker. Like maybe he had a lack of faith that he could do it. But, even seeing that Elijah is sending him to do it, maybe Elijah had some faith in him that he didn't have in himself. But he rushed back to meet him. There was no voice hearing, wherefore he went again to meet them and told him, saying, the child is not awake. Verse 32, and when Elisha was coming to the house, behold, the child was dead and laid upon his bed. He went in there, therefore, and shut the door upon them twain and prayed unto the Lord. And he went up and lay upon the child and put his mouth upon his mouth and his eyes upon his eyes and his hands upon his hands. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times. And the child opened his eyes. And you know about those numbers, man. Brother Eleazar did a lesson dealing with the spiritual meaning of a lot of these numbers. But the child sneezed 7 times. And he called Gehazi and said, call this Shunammite. So he called her, and when she was coming unto him, he said, take up thy son. Then she went in, fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and took her son and went out. And you got like, why did they go through all of that? Why had to go through all of that? He gave him a child. It's supposed to have been a miracle child, and now the child falls sick and just immediately just dies. And then she has to go through all of this emotional pain and all of these things, but it's just to set the story up. It's to set the stage up. Now, if we go to a few more verses, y'all, bear with us. We go to, and let me just show y'all some of these things here. See, Naaman, the leper, Gehazi gets himself in trouble right there. Elijah promises food, the 4 lepers. There's some good reading here. If you like the stories, you like the biblical story, there's some good reading in 2 Kings, y'all. All right, that's probably becoming one of my favorite books. All right, Jehoram restores the Shunamites land. All right. Then spake Elijah unto the woman whose son he had restored. So we don't skipped over a couple chapters, but yeah, okay, yeah. I'm gonna have to make sure this is what we needed. All right, whose son he had restored to life, saying, arise and go thou and thine household and sojourn wheresoever thou canst sojourn, for the Lord hath called for a famine, and it shall also come upon the land 7 years. So Elisha is warning the Shunammite woman that, the son that he ended up promising her and gave her, and end up having to pretty much resurrect. All done through the Lord. All done by the Lord. He's telling her, he's going back warning her that a famine is coming upon the land. Find you somewhere else to stay for 7 years. And the woman arose and did after the saying of the man of God, and she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the 7 years end that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines. And she went forth to cry unto the king for her household and for her land. She went and cried to the king for a household and her land. She's coming back into the land. The food's back. You'll see that with those lepers and that situation that happened with the lepers. I don't know if this is a direct chronological order. It kind of seems around the same time, but it's not directly in order, it seems. But she's crying for her land. And you also have a story of 4 sisters, I think, 4 sisters that cried out to Moses. They didn't have, no male inheritor. And they cried and they plead to Moses so that they can inherit that land. And Moses ends up going and asking the father. And the father came back with the instruction like, yeah, that's give them their land. All right. So cry out to the father for the land. Cry out to the king for our house and the land. But understanding that this was a righteous woman. A woman who was charitable to the men of God. Verse 4. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, tell me, I pray thee, all the great things Elisha have done. This is a time we done got ourselves, we done came back, the famine's over. Man, tell me about this great things, that Elisha has been doing out here. Okay. And one of the great things in this Gehazi, he ends up being a leper. I don't want to tell y'all all everything, but Gehazi is in front of the king and telling the king about all the things Elijah have done. And it came to pass as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life. See? You say, well, why that happened? Why he didn't know? Everything is woven. Everything just comes together. Everything worketh out for the good of the Lord. So even when you going through something, you can't understand why you're going through it. You can't understand why it was necessary for you to go through it. Eventually, once you start seeing the purpose, then you'll get the understanding. You'll be like, oh, okay, I needed to go through that for that. Well, you just should have told me that I was going to, but he don't operate like that. If he probably would have told you, probably would have made your way to make sure that it didn't happen. You would have did everything possible. And Joker might, Lord might, we serve a merciful one, but he done took some folks out, man. Where we was at. And it came to pass, verse 5, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life cried to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, my lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son whom Elisha restored. You think it's a coincidence that while he telling the story, the woman walked in? No, the Lord already directed the path. The Lord already walked this thing all the way through. That you're going to be walking into king's court while they talking about what the man of God had done for you and your son. You're going to come in there, you and your son, asking to restore everything that's been given to you. But not only that, and when the king asked the woman, she told him so the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, restore all. Write that down. Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she had left the land, even unto now. Not only restore what she had, but she been gone 7 years. Give her that back too. Amen. Give her that back too. Oh man, give her that back too. Matter of fact too, let me get y'all there. And then we gonna end. Matthew 10. Let me go down to verse 40. Reward of service is he that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. Reciprocity. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. Reciprocity. And he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water, only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. All right. He that rewarded for prophet shall be rewarded. We see this sister was rewarded everything that she had, and not only that, everything that she missed. Everything was given back to her. She was fully restored. I pray this thing was edifying. Y'all be blessed. Shalom.